Howdy! Welcome to episode 3 of The List, a series in which I go through every piece of Transformers media ever and try to list every character who appears in said media. Additionally, I also try to figure out when each piece of media takes place on a timeline. In today's episode of The List, I will be covering Sector 7 Adventures, The Battle at Half Dome, a motion comic that was included with the DVD release of the Bumblebee movie, or just Bumblebee if you're a normal person. Note that there is a standard version of it that exists as just a comic book, but I'm going to be covering the motion comic because I feel it has a bit more meat to it. That and also because I couldn't find a pirated version of the comic book copy of it, and I didn't want to pay $40 in shipping fees. Also, according to the Transformers wiki, there isn't really much from the motion comic that was left out in the physical release, so just another point in favor of the motion comic version. Also, another thing I felt was worth mentioning is throughout the rest of the video, I'm just going to keep referring to the Battle at Half Dome as the Battle at Half Dome, because not only is Sector 7 Adventures the Battle at Half Dome a bit of a mouthful, and especially if I'm going to keep repeating it, but also because the Sector 7 Adventures prefix implies that this would be part of an ongoing series of other Sector 7 adventures. But this is the only one. So, also as part of the preface, I'm going to be continuing the video with a general understanding that you've watched the previous videos, but by no means should you have had to. I feel like this should be accessible enough to just jump right into it. That being said, I would recommend any of the other videos just because usually this would be the part of the video where I say, oh, next to each character's name, I'm going to include a little identifier to say what universe they're from. But with this episode, things are going to be a little bit different. With the Battle at Half Dome, I'm not 100% sure it's canon. Especially following Rise of the Beasts, because this both came out and took place before Rise of the Beasts, and so I'm gonna wait till the end to try and figure out if it's even canon or not. Yeah, I forgot to incorporate this in the script, but the Battle of Half Dome came out April 2nd, 2019, so a couple months after Bumblebee, which makes sense if it's coming out with the DVD release. Wish I got the Battle of Half. Wish I got the Battle of Half Dome with my DVD release of Bumblebee. I think it was like a Walmart exclusive. Yeah. At the end of the video, following the segment with the timeline, I'm going to be trying to figure out if it's canon or not. Which I guess kind of makes sense doing it following the timeline because the timeline would probably point out any reasons for it not to be. So we'll get to that when we get there. I love how episode 2 already started confusing things with time travel and alternate timelines and divergent timelines and recursive timelines and all that. Now, episode 3 is already confusing things with, oh, is this canon? Is this canon? We are 3 episodes into a series that I it should not already be this confusing. Why couldn't I have been normal? With all that preface out of the way, let's get to the fun part.
Howdy. Editor Charlie here. I kind of forgot to notice that Battle of Hearthstone literally opens with like a song being played on the radio. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the song. Not that I looked too extensively. I looked up the lyrics, got nothing. I Shazammed it, got nothing. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave that one blank, and if anyone knows the answer, feel free to comment it.
We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
At 5 seconds, Seymour Rutherford Simmons mentions Agent Danny Bell, who appears later in this motion comic, counting as a voice appearance for Simmons and a mention for Bell, with both appearing soon. Bell is voiced by Matt Lambro, while Simmons' voice actor goes uncredited. I don't think it is, but I think it would be mildly interesting if Nick Pillar, who played Simmons in the Bumblebee movie, reprised his role here. But again, I don't think it is. It could be, though, for all I know. At 8 seconds, Bell would respond, counting as a voice appearance for him now. He would also call out Simmons' name, counting as a mention for him too now. At 12 seconds, Simmons would appear. At 15 seconds, Bell would appear, as would Agent Netta March, voiced by Sarah Beale. At 26 seconds, Bell would mention POTUS. And while he could be talking about the position in general, I think it's likely that he's talking about the concurrent president, George Herbert Walker Bush. At 36 seconds, Soundwave would appear, now voiced by Dave Cobb. At 2:12, Simmons mentions Bumblebee. Bumblebee would appear at 2:47. At 2:51, Soundwave would address Bumblebee by his dead name, B-127. At 2:57, Soundwave would mention the Decepticon Twainwreck, everyone's favorite character, Twainwreck. I don't know if I love or hate the joke of Twainwreck, because it's so stupid, but I think it looped back around to being funny. Switch Case also, he's a completely original character who was made just for that one joke. He hasn't appeared before, he hasn't appeared since. At 3 minutes and 6 seconds, Soundwave would mention Optimus Prime. At 3:36, Soundwave would deploy Laserbeak, and a second later, he would deploy Ravage, and a second after that, he would deploy Rumble. At 3:53, Soundwave would mention Megatron, being his first official acknowledgement in the rebooted movie timeline. At 4 minutes exactly, Brawn would appear, now voiced by Matt Lambro. At 5:26, Soundwave would mention Blitzwing. A lot of characters seem to get mentioned by Soundwave, then not appear. I mean, I say a lot. It's 3, but like considering how short the motion comic is and how short this video is going to be, that's a lot. At 6:58, we can hear the voice of Tom Banachek, whose voice actor goes uncredited. Banachek himself would later appear at 7:03. At 7:29, Banachek would mention John Cena's character, Jack Burns. At 8:50, we get the debut of Megatron, reusing his design from the 2007 Michael Bay movie. Fun fact about Megatron's appearance here: originally in the Bumblebee movie, well, like not originally, but like in like I think it was like the first draft of the movie. There was meant to be an appearance similar to this, in which Megatron is shown frozen in Hoover Dam, um, like the 2007 movie, as a post-credit scene teasing a sequel. Unfortunately, that scene was cut from the movie, even though it probably would have like helped in the movie's favor of trying to be a prequel. But here it is now, and so it just further muddies things when it's just like, well, technically Bumblebee is meant to be a prequel, but it's also kind of a reboot. And now we got this comment here that's just like, well, we're gonna contradict some stuff, but we're also gonna include some more stuff. So we'll get more into that later. So, given that the Battle at Half Dome is a maybe canon comic released to tie in with the Bumblebee movie, there isn't really much to talk about in regards to the timeline. We get a small title card at the beginning that says 1989, and that's it. It doesn't contradict Bumblebee, it doesn't contradict Rise of the Beasts, it doesn't contradict. It doesn't even contradict my interpretation of Bumblebee taking place in 1988. Watch the Bumblebee movie video for elaboration on that. We learned that long prior to the events of the Bumblebee movie, Megatron and the Allspark were long gone from Cybertron. That is all the preface we get for that. Megatron and the Allspark are gone. That's it. We also learn that Sector 7 has Megatron captured and stuck in stasis under the ice in Hoover Dam. Again, it's so disconnected from Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts that there's no way for it to contradict them. Most of these revelations are intended to tie the Bumblebee movie, and I guess retroactively Rise of the Beasts, to the Michael Bay movies. Because of that, in order to sort of help plug the gaps in the timeline, take like I'm gonna take a couple notes from the 2007 movie and some of its ancillary media, just to try and plug some gaps. To which case, I'm gonna be citing the wiki because it's been a while since I've read some of these comics. Basically, thousands of years prior, roughly about I don't know 10,000 BC, the Autobots launch the Allspark from Cybertron, and Megatron chases after it, being one of the few Decepticons capable of space travel, just by himself. Eventually, both Megatron and the Allspark crash land on Earth, still hundreds, maybe even thousands of years ago. Megatron was discovered in the Arctic Circle in 1897, and the Allspark was discovered in Colorado River in 1902, and both were moved to Hoover Dam in 1935. I say moved, more like Hoover Dam was built around the Allspark, and construction finished in 1935, which is when they moved Megatron there. I think that makes more sense. Hold on, my knowledge on American geography is not that great. Is Hoover Dam at the Colorado River? In the Black Canyon of the Colorado River. Okay, yeah, that checks out. To reiterate, I'm only taking the key points because, again, technically these events are different timelines. Hell, the movie tie-in comics aren't even canon to the movies. So I'm taking it's like a photocopy of a photocopy. So take that part with a grain of salt. Like in this timeline, maybe Megatron was discovered in 1898, or like the Allspark might have crashed in Missouri, or stuff like that. We don't know for sure, but until we do know, we're just gonna take what appeared in the movie tie-in comics and the original movies and like hope that that's enough. Ergo, our final timeline for the movie is
Howdy. This is the part where I break down the timeline properly, and unfortunately I had to reshoot it because the footage that I already had recorded was, how do we say, shit. So here I am, about a month or two later, re-recording it. Hence why I'm using a different set of headphones. I've got facial hair, and the setup's changed. Just ignore that. So anyway, I've got the timeline written up here on a whiteboard. As you can, I'm just gonna. I don't need my keyboard. I forgot to get rid of that. Anyway, here is the timeline. So we're gonna ignore most of this for now, but here is the present day. This is what we see in Sector 7 Adventures, the Battle at Half Dome. So here in the story, Sector 7, they're transporting some Cybertronian weapon to a place called the Igloo. Now, while on the way, the convoy, which is led by Simmons, our favourite human, they're attacked by Soundwave. And of course, Bumblebee and Brawn come to the rescue. Simmons activates the weapon, and it deactivates all the Transformers except Brawn for some reason. So the convoy heads back to the convoy. They make their way to the igloo, tailed by Brawn, and there Simmons delivers the weapon, and he learns that the igloo, which is in actuality Hoover Dam, is a secret Sector 7 base that is housing Megatron, frozen in ice, just like he was in the first Michael Bay movie. So, yeah, like it's intended to try and link Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast to the Michael Bay movies, but again, I'm beating a dead horse when I say that they're separate. They're separate. Like you try and link it all you want, but they're separate. So all of this is just preface by like Soundwave mentioning, oh yeah, the Allspark was launched from Cybertron however many years ago. Megatron went after it. That is the only mentions we get of Megatron and the Allspark in this rebooted movie timeline. Like nothing in Bumblebee, nothing in Rise of the Beast, all Battle of Half Dome. So trying to plug the gaps. I've borrowed from the Michael Bay movies, and by extension, the 4-issue movie prequel comic series. So here, 10,000 BC-ish, that's roughly about where Soundwave, where like the Autobots launch the Allspark from Cybertron, and then Megatron goes after it because, for whatever reason, he's like one of the few Transformers capable of like actually traveling in space by himself. So eventually they come to Earth, somewhere between 10,000 BC and 1897. Just a couple of years. And so the Allspark crash lands in what would eventually become known as the Colorado River, while Megatron crash lands in the Arctic Circle. And he immediately falls through the ice due to how big he is and how hot he is. Hot as in temperature, not as in bangability. That is a matter of perspective, and I don't judge. But anyway, so the Allspark and Megatron just sit dormant for hundreds or thousands or maybe like 5, 10 years. Where eventually in 1897, Megatron is discovered in the Arctic Circle. Maybe by Captain Witwicky. We don't know. We don't know. Then 1902, the Allspark is discovered in the Colorado River. Then we get to 1935, and Hoover Dam is mostly finished construction. I would assume that in this fictional world, like enough of the part of Hoover Dam that is the Sector 7 base is finished construction, but like the actual Hoover Dam wouldn't be finished until 1936, which I learnt while researching for this segment of the video. Like I'm talking like tonight, months after I've finished everything else. So like, yeah, here in 1935, the Igloo, the Hoover Dam, Sector 7 base, whatever, it's all finished construction around the Allspark at the end of the Colorado River, and Megatron has moved there. And also, just in case, I thought it was relevant, Sector 7 would officially be formed in 1927. So, there's that too. Anyway, so, like I said, this is all we know for certain. The rest of this, broad strokes, take it with a grain of salt, could be proven wrong later. Ramblings of a Madman. Confirmed canon. Like, take that, and it could be wrong. We might get a comic next year that says, actually, Megatron crashed in the Arctic in 1808. Thank you very much. I don't know. That's what it is for now. And also, while I've got the whiteboard here, I can also probably, like, point out where, like, other things in this timeline take place. So, like, it's like 1987, 1988, that's when Bumblebee takes place. 1994, that's Rise of the Beasts. 23rd century, I wish there was a bigger gap. That's like the prologue to Rise of the Beasts. About 5000 BC, that's when the Maximals crash land in Rise of the Beasts. So like, whoo, time travel. And then time travel again because the Terracons go to 1994, and then time travel again because like Unicron tries to go to 1994 but he gets stopped. Yeah, I think that timeline's looking pretty complete. Because 1927, that's when Sector 7 forms. So, yeah, that is our timeline. Cool. Please let this be the last take. I've had to re-record this like 5 times.
Okay, this next segment was going to be a parody of Watchtower Database's Will It Canon series, where I was going to like go to my kitchen and get a blender and get like my Bumblebee movie Soundwave figure, which he's all the way over there. And I was going to like jokingly like have him like next to the blender, and I was going to like it was going to be a big parody of Watchtower Database's Will It Canon series, but like the angle that my kitchen's at doesn't work, and my camera's on a cord. Well, both my cameras. It just fell through. So it that's why I'm all in this. I went out and bought a lab coat and safety goggles just for this bit, only to realize this is not going to work. So yeah, the video is just going to continue as is, and I just look like this. I've always been under the assumption that the Battle at Half Dome is a separate timeline from Rise of the Beasts, both with Bumblebee as their starting point. So like Bumblebee here, Rise of the Beast, Battle at Half Dome. Because given the transit scene from Rise of the Beast, the deleted scene where Optimus fights Transit, to me that sort of read that Optimus would be very on top of any Decepticons that come to Earth, and making sure that they don't get off of Earth by graphically murdering them.
You'll never see Cybertron again. You will die here on this miserable planet.
So Soundwave being here in the Battle at Half Dome made me think that Rise of the Beasts might be booting it out of canon, or like at least a separate timeline. Also, the fact that Brawn wasn't in Rise of the Beasts kind of helped add that notion. That was until when I covered Rise of the Beasts, I came to the conclusion that the Transit fight scene and Transit's subsequent death isn't canon because it doesn't fit with the movie. Ergo, it can't really be used as evidence to say that Battle at Half Dome isn't canon. You know, not to say that the fight with Transit didn't happen off screen, but like the way it's presented in the movie is incongruent with the movie. So, furthermore, upon rewatching Battle at Half Dome and to cover it for this, there isn't really anything that contradicts Rise of the Beasts either. Like, probably just means that Optimus killed Soundwave sometime in between the events of Battle at Half Dome and Rise of the Beasts. And probably closer to the Battle at Half Dome side of that timeline. Brawn, similarly, he's probably either dead or on another mission. As such, the Battle at Half Dome is canon to Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts. Admittedly, it's probably only like level 2 canon, where like Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts are up here, and like Battle at Half Dome's down here, and so like if another movie comes along that contradicts Battle at Half Dome, we can boot it. But like for now, it's good. As such, with Sector 7 Adventures, the Battle at Half Dome being canon, seemingly, it takes place in the same universe as Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts, which for now is an as of yet undesignated universe that I refer to as UED 15, aka Tyron 1218 Mark 21 Delta. To break that down, in case this is your first time watching, UED is an acronym that I've created that, similar to the Marvel Wiki's TRN system or the Arrowverse Wiki's TUD system, is intended to give some sort of classification to universes that don't get names or numbers, I guess. UED stands for Unidentified Earth Designation, with the 15 denoting that chronologically it's the 15th of these UED universes that I've noted. Note that the numbers are measured chronologically, and so if I cover material from earlier that has undesignated universes, that will bump 15 up. Like when I started the notes for the series, this universe was UED 10, then it went up to UED 12, then UED 14, then UED 15. So it will change, probably. And I'm just going to note that in a comment down below when it does happen. The Tyron 1218 Mark 21 Delta part of the designation is taking the official way of classifying Transformers universes and applying that to this universe. To break down how the Transformers franchise officially designates universes, the first part of the universal title is just a general word that is used to describe the continuity family that this piece of media takes place in. For example, this universe is in the Tyron cluster, meaning that it's adjacent to the Michael Bay movies, which are like the most dominant media in the Tyron cluster. 1218 Mark 21 is the real life day that the universe began, but in a month year day format. Specifically, this is taken from the Bumblebee's release date of the 21st of December 2018. So 21 1218 21 1218 Mark 21. Yeah. Sorry, so many numbers. Numbers are hard. The final part of the designation is a Greek letter that designates what form of media that original piece of media took place in. So Delta is equal to Bumblebee being a live action movie. Not equal, but like that's what it signifies. Yeah. If John Hasbro ever comes down from the heavens and decides to tell me, no, Charlie, we already have a designation for this universe and it's actually this, then I'll change it. But until that day, UED 15. Okay, my phone's buzzing. I don't like that. Fuck you, I'm too busy making a new G1 Optimus figure. Rather crass, but okay. With all that said and done, this has been episode 3 of The List. The next episode will be on the 2007 Transformers movie made by Michael Bay, which is going to be really fun because that's my favorite movie of all time. Just outright. I'm kind of shocked I didn't start with it. Like, none of this would have happened if it weren't for that. With that being said, I shall see you in the next video. Have a good one, and thanks for watching. Bye bye.